Hi everyone, you're listening to Achieve Balance with Dr. Arminta, a show brought to you to help you be healthier, happier, and more vitalistic next year than you are this year. You can find us at achievebalancechiropractic.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook as well. We are looking forward to helping you be healthier in your future. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the show. Hey guys, welcome back. Another episode of Achieve Balance with Dr. Arminta. And today we're going to actually talk about thyroid disorders and what is the thyroid gland, how does it function, and what should you be looking at in terms of your health if you're having symptoms, and how to address those, and how to, in my opinion, most importantly, prevent them. And so what most people don't understand is that thyroid health, or the lack thereof thyroid health, is a significant issue in our country today. According to the National Women's Health Information Center, there are roughly 20 million Americans suffering from some type of thyroid disorder. And then of that, American Thyroid Association also reports that 1 in 8 women in the U.S. will be impacted by some form of thyroid disorder at some period during their life. And that's a main issue. So how do we, what are the most common thyroid issues? How do we, adapt to them, and how do we learn about it? So the thyroid gland is a gland that sits in your throat, it's like a butterfly shape, and it is integral in parts of your body that include metabolism, regulating your body temperature, digestion, and even reproductive health. And so there's 2 really important hormones that your body creates in the thyroid. It's called T3 and T4. And those need to be put out at certain rates so your body can be in a state of balance or homeostasis and adaptation. And so if they become out of balance, then your body is going to have some issues. So the most common form of thyroid disorder out there is something that's called hypothyroidism. So about 60% of all thyroid disorders are actually hypo in nature. And that can be, common symptoms can include things like, weight gain and brain fog and things like that. But this is when your thyroid gland is not putting out enough T3 or T4 or both. And according to the American Thyroid Association, in the United States, the most common form of hypothyroidism is actually called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is Hashimoto's disease, which is so commonly diagnosed anymore that we see with a lot of our integrative medicine doctors and things along those lines. And things that can cause this is nutrient deficiencies, specifically low iodine, which is a critical precursor to your T3 and your T4. Also, low selenium can cause that. High stress, high toxicity. Basically, when you have Hashimoto's, it's considered an autoimmune disease where your body is actually attacking its own thyroid gland. And so this is something that's really critical to get in control of before it consumes you, or if it has consumed you, please call our office and we will get you in contact with the best doctors that we see that help treat this disorder, or how can you start to make sure you're setting yourself up for success for not getting it. And we'll talk about that here in just a second with both of these. And then you have hyperthyroidism, which is your lesser of the 2 major thyroid disorders. And a common one of that, and the most common disease or diagnosis within that category is something called Graves' disease, where your body's not producing enough of that, and there are actually lumps that are starting to form on top of your thyroid as well. So a couple of things with hypo and hyperthyroidism. Let's talk about some symptoms that your body can be experiencing if you're experiencing either hypo or hyper. And if you have a number of these, then we need to talk about you going to get this tested and talking about addressing these issues from the inside out. So when it comes to hypothyroidism, or your body's inability to produce enough T3, T4, fatigue is probably the number one symptom associated with hypothyroidism, and it's persistent. You are you are exhausted all the time. You also get some moodiness, sometimes some anxiety. You get dry hair and skin. You might feel even cool to the touch when it comes to your skin. And another common symptom is intolerance to cold weather and cold temperatures. Lots of brain fog happens whenever you have hypothyroidism. It's just like you have hard time putting A and B together. Lots of forgetfulness as well. A hoarse voice, so your voice might start to be gravelly or more rough sounding. Also, unexplained weight gain is another major form of symptomatology when it comes to this. And that usually comes with some form of digestive issues, constipation, bloating. And you also get lots of muscle weakness and sometimes aches and pains and other kinds of discomforts when it comes to hypothyroidism. Now let's switch the coin and go to the hyperthyroidism. So as you can probably guess, it's probably a lot of the opposite with this. Some of them overlap a little bit here. Nervousness and anxiety is one that overlaps. But then instead of being persistently fatigued, you can't sleep at night to save your life. So lots of insomnia, lots of sleeping troubles, lots of rapid heartbeat or tachycardia, or where you can't get that breath of yours. Sometimes if you have more of the Graves' disease diagnosis, your eyes are going to appear bigger than what they typically are. And sometimes they'll even bulge, and they'll have a bulging appearance to them. That's a common thing that we'll see when we have diagnoses of Graves' disease. Also with hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, we have unexplained weight loss, where you just can't keep weight on, and it's happening where you're not putting any effort in. If that's the case, you really need to get that addressed. High amounts of perspiration, muscle weakness, and instead of the constipation and the bloating, you're going to have multiple bowel movements, and then you're going to have brittleness in your hair, thin nails, things along those lines. And those are common things that we'll see with hyperthyroidism. So, what causes our bodies to get to the point where our thyroid gland just doesn't function like it's intended to, and that symptoms end up showing up, and we get our hormones out of balance so bad that we end up with a hormone disorder? And a lot of that comes from our lifestyle. And you guys are going to hear me time in and time out talking about lifestyle. You have more control over your issues or your problems than you have ever been given the belief system that you do. And so our world sets us up for some pretty much disastrous outcomes when it comes to our health if we're passive about it, if we're not taking active steps in educating ourselves, which I can congratulate you guys that you're on here and you're listening, and so you are. But just going through life and letting life happen to you, and instead of asking why. So the food that we eat, the fact that our soil is so nutrient deficient when it comes to its minerals and its vitamins. And if you haven't heard Dave Boatwright's podcast, I encourage you to go back in our archives and look that up, because we talked a lot about why that is. But basically we strip our soil because we don't give it time to recultivate and to actually rebirth, if you would, because we just grow on it and grow on it and grow on it, and we deplete it over time, which depletes us over time. So we're really shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to that. Not to mention the substance and the toxicities and the chemical processes that take place when we have crap for food, if you would. The amount of emotional stress that we are under as a society and what we do to ourselves when it comes to stress is going to be the death of us, honestly, if you really want to know my opinion. So slow down. Give yourself permission to say no to things. Don't overcommit. Don't sweat the small stuff. We have so much more control over that than we think that we do. And you can either give the stress the attention emotionally or mentally, or you can choose to not let it impact you. And that takes practice, and there's an art to it. So I encourage you guys to watch your emotional stress and watch managing your emotional stress as well. Bad immune responses in terms of our immune health, the amount of hormones that we're taking. I mean, golly, we're putting girls on hormones at the ripe age of 10 years old for their acne because they're starting to have pubescence changes. I mean, we are asking for a chemical storm to take place when it comes to our children's reproductive health and their overall health of their overall hormonal system, which in my opinion is the second largest system in the human body after obviously the nervous system, because that controls everything. So not to mention the stuff that we're putting into our mouth and the amount of emotional stress that we put ourselves under, but what about the stuff that we put on our skin? Most people don't understand that the stuff that we put on our skin doesn't have the same kind of filter that the stuff that we put into our mouth. So your skin is the largest organ of your body, and it absorbs everything into it. And 60% of what's absorbed into the skin is directly absorbed into your bloodstream without a filter. So when you put something in your mouth and you go through the digestive system, you have your liver that filters this stuff out, that gets rid of the stuff. I mean, your body is so brilliant. So when you put stuff on your skin that has parabens in it and toxicities in it and things along those lines, yeah, that's going straight into your bloodstream, and will absolutely disrupt your overall hormonal balance, because there are things in there that are known as estrogen mimickers. The estrogen mimickers are something that your body, it off-regulates your progesterone and your estrogen cycles, which has a direct correlation to the thyroid gland as well. So really, really watching that when it comes to that. And instead of talking about all the stuff that causes it and the problem, how do we talk about fixing it? Okay? First and foremost, everybody listen up. You need to get tested on a regular basis for your thyroid health, whether you're having symptoms or you're not having symptoms. I'm a huge proponent that physiology does not lie, and that you need to make sure that you know what your blood says. Your blood has so many different markers in it and can tell you so much about what's going on in the physiology and the hormones on the inside of your body. So I recommend that everybody gets full blood panels with omega-3 ratios, your full lipid panels. The lipid panels that most doctors do is our effing joke. So make sure you get the right ones. If you have questions about that, call my office. But the hormones that I want you to test for your thyroid gland go beyond the majority of what doctors test for. So I want the TSH levels. I also want T3, T4. I want free T3 and free T4, and I want reverse T3 and reverse T4. Because a lot of these numbers, if they're borderline or if they need to be monitored, and you need to have a critical thinking doctor that will help you monitor these and help guide you in your ability to help your body fix itself. The doctor that we are most familiar with, because I'll look at your blood work, but I'm going to refer you out to this doctor anyways, because she's the one that does all the thyroid work for our office. Her name is Dr. Sally Ellebrecht-Gerke, and she's an integrative med doc, but you need to have somebody that's going to look at why is your body doing this, instead of, here, let's try this hormone replacement. Here, let's mess with these numbers. Here, let's mess with these numbers. And then it just becomes this, biological, can we trick the system, instead of actually going to the root cause of the problem and figuring out why is your body not producing enough or overproducing these hormones, and how can you get it back in balance. So make sure that your doctors test the right things, and make sure that they're not just trying to play with your thermostat of your numbers. Make sure that they're actually going after the cause of this. How long do you have to be on these thyroid medications? Is this a lifetime? What can I do in my lifestyle to get my body to adapt and get my body to actually do what it needs to, because I'm giving it what it needs to have. So off my soapbox there. Okay, so know that as a chiropractor and a wellness expert, I can look at this and I can, give you some advice here and there, but you absolutely need this co-managed by somebody that this is their specialty, and that's somebody that wants to find the root cause of the problem and not just chase around the symptoms. But what can you do? And what can you do in your world to help yourself either prevent these or help yourself with the symptoms on your own to help, get your body to adapt better? One of the things that is really critical, and I talked about this in terms of why we get these problems, is a deficiency in our nutrients from our soil. So selenium, zinc, and iodine. So making sure that you're eating iodine-rich foods like seaweed, sea vegetables, wild-caught fish, fermented grains of certain sorts are all really good sources of iodine. Making sure that you're getting organic, wild-caught, obviously the cleanest sources possible for your food is really, really important. Foods that are high in selenium: Brazil nuts, spinach, some tuna, halibut, grass-fed beef, which again, fed from the farm. David Boatwright's, interview, he does that. Beef liver, if you guys don't like liver, I understand. I'm not really an organ meat individual myself, but what you can do is you can actually take it up. You can cube it into small cubes, and you can freeze those small cubes, and you can swallow them whole, and you'll get all that vitamins, and that's where the most nutrient dense portion of that animal is in the organ meat, and you can get the benefits without having to eat it. So if you cut it up in small enough pieces, then you can swallow it whole and still get the nutrient benefit from it. Also, making sure that you're getting enough, zinc and B vitamins are really important. Those aren't seen as much of a deficiency when it comes to this, from my opinion, as the iodine and the selenium are. But making sure that you're really getting those nutrients in is really, really important. As you talked about with the stress earlier, let's manage it. What can you do in your world to exhale more? To not put yourself in stressful positions, to not just grind it out until you feel like you're burnt out. And I think that happens with, oh my gosh, so many moms that I talk to. It's critical that you start putting yourself number one so that you can ensure that you're taking good enough care for yourself, because so everybody else can have the reserve that you give off. Because if you don't, you're going to become overstressed, and that is such a precursor for so many problems, not just thyroid issues. So I encourage you, take 10 minutes of quiet time, meditation per day. Do it I personally, the Dr. Armenta thing, the mornings are sacred to me. Whenever I wake in the morning, that's my quiet time. And that's the time that I give myself before I give any of my time to anybody else. And sometimes it's, sitting in a, child's pose position and just breathing. Sometimes it's a guided meditation. Sometimes it's prayer. And honestly, guys, sometimes it doesn't happen at all because life happens. But if you can try to make a habit of it and do it more times than that it does happen than it doesn't, then it will serve you and it will be really, really valuable to you. Another thing that I want to encourage of you is to remember to have fun in this life. I think fun and laughter is one of the greatest remedies for stress and getting your body to be unstressed, as well as finding things that you're grateful for. Spend 5 minutes thinking about how grateful you are for XYZ. And on those days that are more like rock days instead of diamond days, guys, because we all have them, it can be as simple as, that you have some food in your refrigerator, or that you're breathing air, or that you're able to listen to this podcast, or whatever it may be. Making sure that you find something that you're really, really grateful for, even on the days that are harder than others, because those do happen, and it would be silly for us to ignore the fact that they do. Another thing that you can do is to reduce the amount of chemical toxicity. That goes back to the food stuff. So eating real food, making sure that you're drinking clean water. But really, guys, when it comes to the hormonal toxicity, your birth control is, it is so bad for you. And I understand. I get there. I mean, this puts people into a corner because there's certain ways of not having kids, and some are healthier than not, but most of them are pretty darn unhealthy if you want to prevent pregnancy. And it's really unfortunate, but I would limit the amount of exposure that you have to hormones, whether it be birth control, hormone replacements, things along those lines. It really, really ramps things all. It creates a storm in there. So look at that. Also, the things that you're putting on your skin. I mean, it's really, really important to make sure that you are putting things on your skin that aren't full of a whole bunch of toxins and chemicals, because your body has to deal with those toxins and chemicals, and they really are major hormone disruptors. Also, making sure that your body is not in a state of pro-inflammation, which means, making sure that the inflammation ratios are balanced. And that's what I talked about, that omega ratios on your blood work a few moments ago. This is what I'm talking about. You need to make sure that your body is not super inflamed, because that's a precursor for all chronic disease in your body. So making sure you're taking good omega-3 fatty acids. You can eat those in terms of wild-caught fish, flax seeds, and walnuts. But honestly, in the Midwest, it is very rare that we get enough of these to offset the amount of omega-6s that we do have in our diet. And if you want to learn more about that, go back to our supplement podcast and listen to that. Those has my 4 core on there. Another thing that you can do to help with your gut health in terms of supplementation for healthy gut, healthy body, healthy hormones is probiotics, and putting enough good flora, good gut bacteria back into your system. But the big thing is knowing that you have more control over this than you think you do. Whenever I have people that have hormone issues, my regimen to talk to them beyond what we just talked about there is, first and foremost, they need chiropractic care. You need to make sure that your brain and your body are communicating effectively so that your body can be at a greater state to heal, adapt, and regulate, because your nervous system controls your endocrine system or your hormone system. So if your nervous system is off, it is inevitably assumptive that you can think that your hormone systems are going to be out of balance as well. So making sure that you're getting good chiropractic care is essential with that. Also, making sure that we test you thoroughly, that we get you in line with the proper physicians, that if you do have a problem, that you can help offset this. I also tell people that you absolutely need to eliminate sugar, grains, and dairy from your diet for a period of no less than 30 days to start. And this is potentially a lifelong thing in terms of depending on how ill you are. If you have Hashimoto's disorder, you got some work to do. I hate to say it, but you need to do some things to help protect your body. And making sure that you have a team of people that are going to be proactive in finding the root cause of this issue and not just managing the symptoms of it. So if you ever have questions about your thyroid health, if you need to get your spine checked and you're listening to this and you are not in Columbia, Missouri, please reach out to our office. We would be more than happy to align you with a great doctor in your area. We do it all the time and we love it. And I hope you learned something today. And if you know somebody that's got thyroid issues, please, send them here to listen as well and share the podcast. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hi guys, Dr. Armenta here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope today's episode brought you information to help you eat better, move better, think better, and take care of the true root of your health issues. You can find us online at AchieveBalanceChiropractic.com/podcasts. and you can find us on social media as well. We look forward to having you here the next episode, and we look forward to helping you create a healthier future tomorrow.